So why do we look at the stars in the sky at night? There are three primary reasons that we look at the stars. The first one, the most important and the coolest reason, is to remember how great and powerful God is. He just spoke words and all of the stars and everything else out there in space, the sun, the moon, the earth, Mars, all just came to exist by God speaking words. But what's even cooler is that He used His hands to make each and every one of you unique and special, and He cares about you and He loves you. So I like to remember that, because if God was able to use words to just make all of the universe, and yet He still cares about you and loves you and thinks that you are special, then we can trust Him to take care of us. And we don't need to worry about whatever is going on in the world, because we can remember that God is in control. The second reason that we look up at the night sky and admire the stars is because they're beautiful. And deep in space, there's a lot of beautiful galaxies and nebulae that we can look at. They're just super beautiful. I mean, basically artworks. I mean, it's kind of like God took a paintbrush in this giant universe-sized canvas and made this huge painting for us to go enjoy. The third reason that we look up into the night sky is so that we can learn about the science of space. And space has some of the coolest science that we can learn about. But what's really unfortunate is that a lot of people actually get it wrong, because they don't believe that God created the universe. They believe that it all came about as a result of another theory called the Big Bang Theory. And it goes something like this. In the beginning of the universe, all of the energy and matter and everything was all condensed into an infinitely small point. And at one point, it just exploded and shot hydrogen atoms all over the place. Eventually, as it started to cool, those hydrogen atoms clumped together because of gravity, and eventually got so big that they started to burn as stars. And those stars then created all of the other elements, and when they died and exploded and shot those elements out into space, eventually planets started to be able to form. One particular planet, the Earth, had just the right conditions that life was able to form as a single cell, and then that single cell over millions of years evolved into being a fish, and then it grew legs and came up onto land, eventually evolved through all of the different creatures that we have today, and as an end result, here you are. And that really doesn't make a lot of sense. To give you an example and a demonstration of why that really doesn't make sense, take a look at this. This is the cockpit of a 747 jumbo jet. It looks very, very complicated because it is very, very complicated. But let's say I wanted to take, a box, and inside of that box I put a whole bunch of pieces, so copper and some metal, wires, plastic, gauges, buttons, knobs, all these different things. And I took that box and I maybe shook it up really, really hard and pushed it really tight together and put it under a bunch of pressure. And then I dug a hole in the ground, I buried it, and I decided I wanted to come back 1 billion years later. Do you think that I would find this cockpit of a 747 at the end of that 1 billion years? No, that doesn't make any sense. And yet that's exactly what evolution teaches happened. But the good news is that we actually do know where everything came from, because the Bible tells us. You can read about it in Genesis chapter 1 of your Trailbook or Bible, and it goes something like this. On the first day, God created the heavens, the earth, and light. On the second day, God looked at the earth and He created the sky to go over the surface of the earth. On the third day, He took all the water and He gathered it up into special places called oceans, and then He made the land where there was no water, and He put plants onto the land. On the fourth day, God made the sun, the moon, and the stars, and everything else that we get to look at out in space. On the fifth day, God made the birds to go in the sky and the fish to go in the sea. And on the sixth day, God made all of the land animals, and then He topped off His creation with the very best part, us. humans. He made man on day number 6. He made Adam and Eve, were the first man and first woman. So again, you can read all the details of the story in Genesis chapter 1 of your Trailbook or Bible. But those are the 3 primary reasons that we look up into space. So number 1 again is to remember how great God is. Number 2 is to enjoy and admire the beauty of space. And number 3 is to learn about the science that we can find out by looking into space.